Hey ladies, it's Dominga. Today's video is about how to get on track and then stay on track. And I think that's the hardest part, is saying you're going to do one thing and then actually showing up and completing the action is where a lot of people fall off. And that's the difference between people who are very successful and people who are bitter and upset because they didn't put in the work to be among the successful. So hopefully after today's conversation, you'll have just a little bit more fuel in the tank to actually push through. So I'll be the scapegoat and use myself as the example. Right now it's 1:15 in the morning. I have a 104 fever, and you might be able to tell in my voice I'm sort of congested. I've been sick for about a week and my ears are kind of plugged. So if I'm yelling at you, I'm sorry, but maybe it'll get the point across. And I'd rather be asleep technically right now because I have to work tomorrow. So these are all of the things that in my mind are in the way of me sitting down and filming a video right now. But guess what? Alternatively, I would be in bed right now scrolling on TikTok, looking at Instagram Reels, doing all of those things on the side of consumption instead of on the side of actual content creation. And I think you can't go on and on and on about all these things that you want to be. Oh, I want to become a lawyer, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a mother, or I want to be a YouTuber, and then not do any of the things that are going to make you successful at that. This is why the slope is so slippery. It's a dangerous game to play with yourself, to say, I'm going to do this, this, and this by this time and this date, and then not do it. Why? Because you are proving to your subconscious that you literally do not care about what you say you care about. And you might even be to the scope of plaguing yourself with wanting to do this, that, and the third, and then not showing up for yourself. And then what do? We start involving interpersonal relationships that mimic that behavior. So for example, you might have a boyfriend that says, we're going out on Saturday at 6 p.m., be ready. And you're excited and you're doing your hair and your makeup and you have the fit and you're excited to go. And then he texts you and he's like, hey, look, tonight's not going to work. And what time is it at this time? It's like 4 p.m. He's like, it's not going to work. Like, I have this, that, and the third with the guys, and like, I'm sorry, but love you. Like, see you next week. And you're like, okay, fine. Why? Because you do the same thing to yourself. If you don't show up for yourself, you're not going to have the skill honed in to then stand up for yourself when it's against a whole other person. The call might be coming from inside the house, and you have to be honest with yourself. I say this in every single video I have. If you sit around and lie to yourself and you're like, okay, well, I'll make time next week, or I'll do this, that, and the third later, or I'm sick, I have a 104 fever, I just want to get in bed, I have to work tomorrow, and it's 1 a.m. I don't really know whose fault it is that all those circumstances have stacked against you, but you've left it till now. So guess what? Now's the moment that you're going to show up for yourself and be exactly who you said you were. And guess what happens when you do? Your confidence becomes untouchable and unbreakable. When you show up for yourself and you know that everybody else might let you down, but you won't, that confidence is so unshatterable. It's like nothing that you can buy in any store, you can't get at any hair salon, you can't get your nails done enough times that would make you as confident as it will to show up for yourself and to keep your promises to yourself. Because it just literally makes everything less painful. Like after a breakup, you're like, oh, well, lost him or lost her, lost that person, but guess who I didn't? Myself. Guess who's going to fix it? Guess who's going to get through it? Me. I think this conversation cannot be had without a disclaimer where you are not allowed to beat yourself up for not being as consistent as you might want to in certain areas of your life. So say you're on a weight loss journey, you're 145 and you want to be, 120. And you're only going to the gym like once a week because it's really all that you can manage in your schedule. And then you fall off for 2 weeks and then you get right back on it and you go 3 times in that week, and then the next week comes and you didn't go at all. Like, you have to actually sit down and plan, or it's not going to work. Nothing works that you are not prepared for. Every time I think this thought, I'm like, okay, well, you have a valid point. If you say work a 9 to 5, or let's say you're a student and you go to your classes when they're scheduled and you show up on time, but you have some sort of hobby, some sort of passion that you're trying to pour into, and you don't show up for that with the same level of consistency, my question to you is, do you care more about the institution that you're a part of, if you're in a university, or the company that you work for, more than yourself? Because if you do, because that, like, literally, that's what you're proving to yourself. Like, that is what you're proving, is that I care more about my job, I care more about my grades and my position at my school, or I care about my children and my family and my husband and my kids more than I care about myself. If I'm showing up for them on a regimen with a schedule that I will not do for myself. Do you see the problem? Do you see the problem? And I honestly, I've always said, like, the internet is not your diary, and I stand by that. Please get a therapist. Don't come on the internet and just like spill, spill, spill. But I will tell one personal story. After my parents' divorce, which was 2+ years ago now, I remember, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm going to admit this. I would go like Monday to Thursday and literally not even shower one time. And then it would be Friday and be like, okay, this is out of hand. And I would finally shower. Like, I would never get past 4 days, but I somehow would be able to convince myself, like, oh, whatever, like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Because I was in so much emotional pain. It got to the point where I was like, Dominga, mom and dad getting a divorce has quite literally nothing to do with if you're taking a shower. Like, you have to be the one to fight for yourself. Because guess what? No one's coming. No one's coming to save you from yourself, from your situation, from your finances, from the man you don't want to be with, from the woman that you don't want to be with, from your children, from being in that spiral, in that cycle of life where you just can't find the light at the end of the tunnel. You have to be that light at the end of the tunnel for yourself. You were designed by God, which means you have a part of him in you. This is not obviously going to resonate with people who don't believe in God, but I literally believe this. If he decided that you were valuable enough to be created, to live a life on this earth, then why are you not standing up? Stand up. I'm like, oh, well, I want to get in bed. I want to get in bed so that I can be bright and bubbly and do my job to the best of my capabilities tomorrow. But I also want to be a YouTuber to the best of my capabilities, and I want to be able to do so to the extent that I don't have a 9 to 5 anymore. And that's not going to happen if all I do is focus on the 9 to 5. There's so much beauty in giving yourself grace when you need it, but you can't let that grace turn into poison. It's a slippery slope. When I was in high school, I used to wear my hair curly every day to school, and honestly, if I didn't work on television, I would probably do it more, but of course, there's intricacies to that. Like, sometimes they want you to have a consistent look and wear your hair down, but my point here is, growing up, I always had my hair curly. And people at school would call me pubes. If my parents ever see this, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you went through so many things you never told us. I'm like, yes, I know. I just didn't want to grieve you. But yeah, I would be called pubes at school by multiple people. And at the time, I like had absolutely no voice for myself. So I would just sort of like let it be. And I didn't always voice when I was disappointed with the way that I was being treated, because firstly, I didn't think it was going to change anything. And secondly, I was just like, I don't know, I hadn't grown into myself yet. My point in sharing the story about being called pubes was, I let that break me. It turned me into somebody who woke up an hour early, who was straightening their hair on 600 degrees every single day before high school. And then by the time I graduated high school, and in my mind now, I would perceive like being a younger adult as the time I would want to be able to like straighten my hair and have this long, luscious, full hair. As in high school, like, what would you even need to be all that sexy for? Like, what does it matter? You're a minor. Them calling me that made me feel like they had more autonomy over me than I did. And honestly, I gave it to them. I mean, people's words, you have to be careful what you say to people, because you never know how impressionable they are, and you never know in what ways you truly may be breaking them. That might have been their goal. It might not have been. I understand we were all kids and we had a lot to learn, but it made me somebody who gave my power away. And now I've figured out a way to reclaim it. Even though my hair is straight right now, and even though it's often straight, I like it this way. It doesn't mean that it has to be. I don't feel like I have to do it or I can't go outside. And that is progress, and that is growth. And I'm sitting before you today to tell you that I would not be this way unless I was unapologetically, fiercely set on being who I was divinely created to be. And that's exactly what you need to do too. So whoever it is in your ear, in your life, whatever situation it is that has you feeling like you need to be anything less than your absolute max potential, it doesn't have any power over you that you don't allow it. You know, narcissism doesn't work without fear. People can't control you if you don't give them the microphone. And that goes for everybody in your life. I'm talking your parents, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friends. If anybody is making you feel like you are not allowed to be your utmost best version of yourself, they're cut. I really hope this video helps some of you out. And of course, like I say at the end of every video, you are made on purpose and with intention. I love you so much, and make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps push me out in the algorithm. And of course, like I said, I want to be able to do this full time one day. Okay, I love you. See you next week.